I'm William Kumwembe with Business Time. It is a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. And coming up in the program today, we speak with experts on effectiveness and efficiency brought about by the new pensions law about 9 months after enactment. And we also weigh in on Monday's announcement by the Reserve Bank of Malawi to have raised the policy rate by 200 basis points to 26%. Stay tuned.
Insuring and saving with Old Mutual means growing crops, growing jobs, growing a future. Creating mutual futures, your money invested for the good of all.
Hello and welcome, and this is Business Time. In our main story in the program today, in December 2022, Parliament passed the Pensions Act of 2022, replacing the old Pensions Act, which was passed just some 12 years earlier. The law comes into force on March 1st, 2023. Among other things, the new law reduces the employee's wait period for proceeds to 3 months and allows one to claim 50% of total contributions with 5 years to retirement age. What impact has the new law brought about to the sector? This is a question I posed to Kaluso Chihana, who is Reserve Bank of Malawi's Chief Examiner for Life Insurance and Pensions Fund.
But generally, what we are seeing is that the number of employees that are on pension has actually increased by about 30,000 since the law came into force. But you also recall that the law brought in a new feature in terms of voluntary pension systems. But then most of the players are yet to set up these voluntary pension funds to allow other sectors of the economy, like the informal sector, to be able to save. But we have been engaging with some of the players. They had submitted something. But generally, I think we are basically having a conversation around that. So the other impact obviously has been felt in terms of the amount of pension benefits that are being withdrawn, because one of the key features of the new law was to change the conditions for access for pension. And if so to speak, we would say the conditions were a bit more open around this time around, and that allowed more people to access pension. So there has been a jump in the amount of benefits that have been paid out.
9 months down the line, the obvious question everyone else has is that how is the fund contributor benefiting from the revised law?
Some of the benefits that we see obviously are the options for accessing being much wider. If an employee is out of employment, they are having to wait less, because now they only have to wait for 3 months before they can access their own contributions. But at the same time, for those that have 5 years or less to retirement, they are also able to access up to 50% of whatever accumulation they had in their account. And they could utilize this amount in whatever form they want, whether it's to use it for as capital for businesses and the investments that they would like to manage.
There have been concerns, especially among commentators, saying that when it comes to investment, pension funds are concentrated on one or two particular sectors, and in return, they're not bringing the tangible, the desired impact in as far as economic development and growth is concerned. This is on the basis that not much of the money is channeled in areas like infrastructure development. What's your take and what's your impression of this?
The current portfolio or makeup of the investment portfolio of pension funds is something that would say is not ideal currently, because I think roughly around 53% is invested on the stock exchange, and about 30% is in government securities. So there is a high concentration of assets in specific sectors, particularly those two areas. And indeed, that's a concern from our point of view as a regulator. And some of the government securities are also generally short-term in nature, and then you appreciate that pension funds generally have long-term liabilities. And so what we would like to see is the matching of assets and liabilities over the long term. And what we would like to see indeed is to see more contribution from the pension sector in terms of investing in infrastructure investment, for example, which are more long-term assets, and that would help them to match their liabilities with appropriately tenured assets.
Prior to the passing of the law, there were fears of a possible squeeze of liquidity among pension fund managers, as there were some adjustments that you have already alluded to. 9 months down the line, what's your assessment?
Yeah, indeed, you're right. I think prior to the promulgation of the Act, there were those fears that perhaps maybe pension funds might not have the liquidity to be able to settle their obligations. But what we had done almost immediately, even actually it was just prior to the law coming into force, we had collected information about all the members that would be eligible to access. And when we compare the liabilities that would be due and the assets, particularly the liquid assets that were there, generally most of the pension funds were okay to be able to meet and settle those obligations. And indeed, as confirmation to that, since the law came into force, all pension funds have been able to settle their obligations as they are presented. And we've never received a complaint of a pension fund that has been unable to settle any demand for payment of benefits with respect to the new provisions that came into force. But the complaints that we receive are mostly associated with the pension contribution arrears. So that is slightly different from the provisions that came into force with the law.
The Life and Pensions Association of Malawi, an umbrella body for pension fund managers and insurance services providers, feel the new law has brought about the much sought after sanity in the industry. Its president is Lilian Moyo.
So the Pension Act 2023 comes in to replace the Pension Act 2010, which had some shortfalls, and the efficiency now comes in that it has brought about certain provisions that will improve the administration as well as also improve the expectations of members. So, for example, we can take note of key areas such as the withdrawal of benefits. So, in the past, in the previous act, when one has been laid off, for example, they would access part of their benefits after 6 months, but that means 6 months of hardship. But the Pensions Act 2023 has reduced that to 3 months. And it has also changed the portions of cash at retirement, where one would access 40% cash in advance, and then 60% will buy retirement, which we call an annuity or the monthly pension. But now the new act has now increased the 40% to 50%, and therefore leaving 50% to form the monthly pension. So much as this is not good for the annuity book that reduces, but it still gives the member a little bit more funds to start off in their retirement. And the third provision, which is also good, is allowing members to access funds 5 years prior to the actual retirement age. So it gives a chance now in terms of efficiency in managing one's retirement. One can now plan to use the funds 5 years before they actually retire. They could finalize building a house, for example, or put together some investments, which then, by 5 years, they are into their maturity or stability as they retire. So they retire better off. So these provisions, we believe, as an association, they'll bring efficiency in managing pensions.
What is your impression on the beneficiaries' understanding and adherence to the provisions of the law?
We have seen an improvement in the understanding and awareness of pension law itself, as well as the general aspects of pension administration. We've seen that more members are coming up to request for their statements. Members are now eager to log into the portals that the industry is offering so that they get more awareness and information about their retirement funds. We've seen that members are actively participating in following up even contributions from their employers to make sure that these are remitted on time. It just shows that as the industry is growing, so is the information gap closing between members and service providers.
How, as an industry, are you striking a balance in ensuring that, number one, you are liquid enough in terms of funds, as we are speaking, more and more would be coming to have some early withdrawals of their pension money, but at the same time ensuring sustainable investment for the future and the contribution of the sector itself to the economy at large?
All right, thank you. So the Pension Act does guide in terms of investments, and all providers, these are pension administrators, they work within investment mandates that are well monitored. We are prudent institutions, so we are also governed by the regulator. So these investment mandates that are also provided for in the Pensions Act itself, they do guide on how we invest the funds. So the industry really operates on robust investment mandates and platforms to the extent that there's always funds available to settle benefits when they fall due. At the same time, also funds are set aside for long-term investments. So there cannot be a time when the institutions are not liquid enough to settle benefits because of the prudence in which we manage the investments.
What impact has the new law brought about in ensuring that companies are remitting the pension monies as required by the provisions of the law?
So the Pension Act, both the old and the new, have got provisions, and these provisions include directives on when a remittance is expected. So these are within 14 days of end of month. And we've seen that most companies are now complying. Most employers have tried their best to comply to these regulations. Of course, there are some that will still be lagging behind, but we do understand as an association, we understand the reasons why. When the economy is not doing so well, employers are also affected, but our role is to always remind them as an association that we work within the dictates of law, and that we need to respect the regulations such as the 14 days to remittance, and that the penalties are attached if one does not comply. And so we have taken a role of educating and bringing awareness to all employers that we are dealing with to make sure that as an industry we are complying, but also as employers they are complying and not compromising, because when contributions are late to be remitted, it affects the investments as well. And then that affects the future payout for the members when they retire. So it's always good and prudent that employers and administrators, they work hand in hand to comply.
Last but not the least, outlook. How does the future look like in as far as the performance of the pension industry in particular and its contribution to the general economy in general?
Thank you. So the pension sector in Malawi plays a big role in the economy. We are governing and administering funds in trillions. Managing such funds requires prudence, and we see that we can contribute greatly to the development of the Malawi economy. At the same time, we are also mindful that fair treatment of consumers and customers is also key. And therefore, as we manage the pension funds, as we administer these benefits, we make sure that we are looking at fair treatment of our consumers. As an association, we endeavor to work with the employers and the regulators to make sure that our clients that we are serving are being treated with dignity, and we provide information as it falls due, and even just periodically informing our clients on any other developments, because we take it as our role to make sure that we are providing this information and awareness. And we would want that every meeting that we have with a client must be delightful and enjoyable. And therefore, we make sure that the processes that we undertake to administer their funds are smooth, are well governed. We are managing controls, and we're making sure that compliance is being done.
Remember, this is Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. When we get back, the Reserve Bank of Malawi's Monetary Policy Committee revises policy rate to 26%. We discuss what this means to borrowers. That's when we get back inside Business Time.
Ensuring and saving with Old Mutual means growing crops, growing jobs, growing a future. Creating mutual futures, your money invested for the good of all.
Welcome back. The Reserve Bank of Malawi on Monday announced an upward adjustment of the policy rate by 200 basis points from 24% to 26%, a move likely to push up the cost of borrowing in the country. The policy rate remains a key driver of interest rates on loans, and upward adjustment will likely see commercial banks in the country reciprocating by adjusting the prices of loans. This could exert more pressure on most Malawians, according to economic experts, as it will induce further increase in commodity prices and deter investments, thereby slowing down possible growth. This is the 8th time since April 2022 that the central bank has maintained a tight monetary policy stance in its desperate attempt to cushion or rather contain pressure that has been faced due to inflation and has seen it rocketing over the time. We have the whole story in this report by Kumwembe.
The policy rate remains a key driver of interest rates on loans, and the upward adjustment will likely see commercial banks reciprocating by adjusting the price of loans. This could exert extra pressure on most Malawians, according to economic experts, as it will induce further increase in commodity prices and deter investments, thereby slowing down growth. This is the 8th time since April 2022 that the central bank has maintained a tight monetary policy stance in its desperate attempt to contain inflationary pressure, as headline inflation has been rocketing. Catholic University-based economist Greenwood Nyirenda weighs in his views.
So in their document, they are saying they have increased the policy rate to curb the inflationary pressures. So let's look at the genesis of these issues. So we have been increasing this policy rate, expecting that inflation will go down. So we have been moving from 18% to 22% to 24.26%. Nothing has been happening in terms of inflation. Inflation is increasing despite having those changes. So I would say, theoretically, we say, when this inflation comes because of monetary aggregates. So the moment you increase the policy rate, it has an impact on monetary aggregates, which decreases inflation. But in this case, I would say, I think maybe our inflation, maybe the problem is not monetary aggregates. I think we may be looking at something different, I think. So I think it can be a theoretical argument in this case, because we have seen these changes happening. Nothing has been happening with inflation. So I would say this is maybe a theoretical argument so far, but I think it doesn't solve our inflation. If we look at inflation so far, I think I will mention maybe two pressing issues that we have been experiencing as a country. Every year, when we have problems with our production as a country, in terms of agricultural production, we expect inflation, because most of this inflation emanates from food inflation. So maybe taking care of production as a country, in that case, maybe we can reduce inflation. The other issue that has been affecting us in terms of inflation, because we are an importing nation, because this is an importing nation, whatever happens to our exchange rate, it also implies the goods that we import, the prices will change. So we have seen what has been happening to our exchange rate. That has been affecting our inflation, fuel prices, etc. So maybe we have to look at how do we stabilize exchange rate, because that affects our inflation. On the other issue, what should happen to our production so that we have enough production as a country? I think in that case, we can manage to stabilize this inflation, and in fact, we can reduce this inflation. This policy rate increase, I think by the end of the day, I think commercial banks are beneficiaries because everyone who's servicing a loan, they expect to pay more this month. Anyone who's getting a new loan, they're supposed to pay more. So I think by the end of the day, we are driving interests up. When we drive interests up, what happens? It makes it harder for the businesses to borrow money because we have to look at most of the banks that are something percent. So this time around, we have increased that one. What are we saying? The banks are getting those loans at a very expensive rate. Therefore, they should also drive their prices up just to meet how much they are paying to the bank. So it doesn't make sense to the businesses, I think, when interest rates are going up for those that borrow from the banks to manage their businesses.
But a statement published after the end of the first Monetary Policy Committee meeting for 2024, RBM Governor Wilson Banda says the decision was on the pretext that inflation pressures have intensified and the inflation path is said to remain elevated above the 5% medium-term target.
Now, in other business news, Mood Sacco has registered a record-made 4% increase in profit in 2023, having posted a surplus of 358.9 million kwacha from 184.9 million kwacha in 2022. This came out during the Sacco's annual general meeting held in Blantyre on Saturday. Mood Sacco outgoing chairperson Matilda Mtambo-Banda attributed the performance to committed workforce and innovative ideas deployed to grow the Sacco's loan book and membership. We have the whole story in this report.
During the Sacco's annual general meeting held in Blantyre on Saturday, the Sacco's chairperson Matilda Mtambo-Banda attributed the performance to a committed workforce and innovative ideas.
It's really so amazing. As witnessed today, as Mood Sacco, we have really made an extraordinary surplus of 94%. We don't have much to say, but I think it's a teamwork that we have. We know that we are passing through the economic environment, which was not stable, but the team working spirit plus hard work and also the line policies that guide us and the Reserve Bank of Malawi, we managed to hit that. We really thank God. As Mood Sacco, we are really making strides. We know that the world is changing. We are living in a dynamic world, such that the ICT is also our main key components in the Sacco. So we make sure that we take that on board to get to all the members and also the prospecting members. We are making sure that I think they not need to work physically to our offices, but that through technology we can be transacting right away from there. That's why we also heard that the year that has just gone, we have launched the WhatsApp chatbot, and also we are using the TNM and the Airtel partnership to make sure that we reach out to the masses out there. You know, every challenge, there should be an opportunity. So we managed to negotiate with our members as one of the strategies. The surplus for 2022, there was an agreement that part of it, instead of getting the entire 50%, should go for liquidity to cushion our members. And we also had a chance to access Fin's loan from the Reserve Bank, which also cushioned our liquidity. So with the loans that we disperse coming in with the interest, we managed to excel. 2024 seems so amazing. Of course, we are not yet there, but we can foresee that things have already started improving. We have also noted this towards the fourth quarter of 2023, whereby the issue of liquidity, I think, has a little bit lessened. So we are hopeful that if this continues, we are going to make it through. We have other products and services that we deliberately target the community members. For example, we know that the women are the marginalized. So we managed to come up with a product which we call My Watsogolo. And we make sure that we organize the women into groups for businesses and that they are able to access loan and also make saving with us. Not only that, we have also some other members, individuals who are doing business on their own. So we make sure that they also have the opportunity to save with us and also access loan. Apart from the fact that we are also basing on those members that are payroll based. The rule of thumb is that for one to get loan has to save with Modisako something, and in terms of getting loan, it gets about ×2 of what has been saved. Yeah, of course, we go beyond that for other members who have more potential to repay the loan, because we also consider that apart from getting the loan, there should also be repayment to continue with the business and make sure that we also save the others.
Guest of honor during the AGM, who is also Southern Region Water Board Chief Executive Officer Duncan Chambamba, said the SACCO needs to raise more awareness.
No, this is quite commendable for Malawians and even members of the SACCO, that we can have some organizations that we can organize people on the ground and go into some business and make some big surplus like 94%. I think my message should be that all SACCOs in Malawi should emulate this example. Let them devise mechanisms to benefit members again by investing back into the business, whatever they've got from the members, and in the end, they should be able to make more returns from our such investments. No, it has not been easy, especially looking at the economic environment that we have been operating, which has been so harsh to an extent, especially after passing through devaluations and all that. But the fact that the Modisako, despite all those challenges, has been able to effectively manage its resources and get this, I think it's something that we must commend Modisako for this big achievement. Yeah, I think there are a lot of things that SACCOs should consider. I think the first thing is that SACCOs, the name SACCO has been here for so long. I think I started hearing about SACCO when I was young, but it looks like with the public, most members are not aware of the capability of SACCO, what SACCO can do to them. So the first thing I would advise SACCOs is that they should do proper sensitization to the public, to people out there, so that they understand what SACCO is all about and how they can benefit from it. There are a lot of districts in Malawi where people are not aware of how they can benefit from SACCO, so such sensitization would assist them to benefit from our SACCO operations. And furthermore, it was even interesting to note that Modisako in particular is willing to assist the business community with financial resources to boost up their business. So this is information that the business community would want to know, small, medium and big businesses, that now they no longer have to worry. They don't need to queue at the banks to wait for resources. They can even go to SACCO and get some resources and boost up their businesses. So this is a good development. But what is supposed to happen now that they must properly sensitize the public so that they are aware of what they can get from the SACCOs.
Among other things, the SACCO is looking to increase membership by 60%, capital base by 50%, loan portfolio by 80%, and surplus by 58% in 2024.
With that story, we've also come to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time, a magazine program in which we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe. Thank you for watching, but always remember, if it doesn't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Bye for now.